Hey, folks. Hi, I'm Rick Wallace with the Sports Affiliation, and this is the Give Back Show, where each week we try to spotlight the good that people in fantasy football are doing with charity leagues and charity events. Um, and hopefully that will encourage others to either participate or might even run their own league or charity. So tonight I'm really excited, and it's a privilege to have Steve Lawson on the show. He's going to talk about the Rainbow Bowl Charity League and how it supports the Trevor Project, which is the leading suicide prevention for and crisis intervention for LGBTQ plus young people. So, really, Steve, appreciate you being on the show. And how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. Super excited to be here. I just pounded a coffee from Starbucks not too long ago. Um, I am just so excited to honestly, first off, thank you for like this kind of platform. I think this is so cool that you highlight like all these like charity leagues. Like I was checking out the channel like a while back when you and I first connected, and I'm just like, this is so amazing. Like so many people are trying to do so many amazing things in this space. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of times, I mean, we all play fantasy football to compete and to show off our football skills and knowledge. But a lot of us, in an increasing number of people, are also seeing how much they can do to give back to either the local community or the larger community around us with charity leagues and charity events. Everyone knows of the Scott Fish Bowl and how much work that the Scott Fish Bowl does, and I think that also helps inspire others to do other leagues for on their own. So that's kind of the whole reason I started this, and hopefully we'll get a chance to learn more and in the process, find things that we want to do on our own, whether it's
Sure.
a charity league or a charity event. Um, I'd love to find out more about the Rainbow Bowl and the great work you're doing with that. But first, I think it'd be great to get to know you a little bit more and let the audience know about you and where you're from. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, talking about myself is always a tricky one, right? Like it's so much easier to talk about other people like I'm used to doing on some of these podcasts. But I was born, raised outside of Boston. I'm a Boston guy. Um I went to college down at Florida State, so I tend to be a bit of a homer in that regard. I'll always root for my Seminoles. But the main thing about me, like why Rainbow Bowl started, is I'm part of the LGBTQ community. I'm gay. I came out a few years ago, late in life. But I've been a big football fan since I kind of got into fantasy football. My friends in college really turned me on to fantasy football. And I'm now 31 years old, which is to me, it's like the oldest I've ever been, right? So like sometimes I say that and like people are like, "Oh, come on, man." But I'm like, dude, like I don't feel 31. You know what like it it comes quick, right? Like you kind of get hit with these ages that you're like, man, I can't believe I'm in my 30s now. Like I graduated college a decade ago. Um, but yeah, so Boston kid got a taste of the South. So look, people are like laughing at me in the chat. It happens every time. Every time. Like the comments, people laugh at like how young I actually am. Uh but I like it's so weird because I don't feel 31. I still feel like I'm 20, you know? So I am
I'll
definitely
tell
kind of
you,
thrown by that.
Steve, I'm very jealous of you. Wait till you get into the 60s and, and you definitely do feel it. So the fact that you're 31 and still feeling young, that's, I think, perhaps more a reflection of your attitude and your positive nature. And hopefully you get to
Maybe.
keep that throughout your life because it makes for a much better life. I've always think so. Um, what team? You mentioned the college team that you you obviously root for, but what
Yeah.
professional team do you root for?
I am actually a terrible NFL fan because I root exclusively for my fantasy team. whoever's on my fantasy team, that's who I cheer for. I have no loyalty. After Brady left the Patriots, I essentially just became like a nomad in terms of my fandom. It's who's on my team. That's what I want. I only want points from my fantasy. I don't care if the Patriots lose by 50, as long as I got someone on the offense that's beating them by 50. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
I really don't have a home in terms of the NFL.
Well, and I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of people in fantasy football, and because they invest in players, because after all, it's the players on your team that make your team successful, your fantasy team successful. And I know in my first league, I actually quit after I played, and of course, this is way back in 1989, before the internet, and you were
Yeah,
doing things with newspapers, and you did drafts with the annuals. I had sporting news annuals. There were a couple players I really liked, and I got to the point where I wasn't watching my home team, and I found that I was actually missing that. So I quit for probably about 8, 9 years before
oh wow.
getting back into fantasy football. But now you're right. I'm a Texan fan because I'm based here in the Houston area,
Oh
but
cool.
I don't watch a lot of games, and in part because I think I'm going to jinx either the Texans, or I don't even watch the games where some of my key players are playing, because I always think, oh gee, if I watch it, the guy's going to get hurt, or
Yeah,
or something bad's going to happen. So
you know what?
um,
I think fandom's like in danger a little bit because people like me exist, right? And then Red Zone is such a cool way to watch the NFL now because of fantasy football, right? Like you don't really have to watch your home market anymore. It's much more Red Zone now, I feel like. So unless your team's on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, so I don't know. Maybe I'll become the like kind of like the majority here of like baseless fans.
I think there'll always be a wide range of different players playing fantasy football, at least with different approaches. Some are going to
Oh,
be
for
very
sure.
team oriented, and some are going to be more player oriented, and that's what makes fantasy football and the community so fun, because there
It
is
really
such a
is.
diversity.
So
What
cool.
about you mentioned about when you started getting into fantasy football? What got you into fantasy football?
Oh boy. So I moved to Florida, made some friends, and they were in a fantasy football league together already. I had transferred. I was playing baseball up here at a small college, and then transferred down there to just go to school. And they were doing it, and they needed a guy. One of their guys dropped, and they were like, "Hey, will you join?" I'm like, "Sure." They're like, "You watch football, right?" I'm like, "No, but I can start. How hard can it be?" And yeah, and that's kinda how I got into it. It was really more of a chance to, like, not to be, like, sad about it, but to, like I was still in the closet, so it seemed like a good way to kinda keep my cover, you know? So it was like, "Hey, like, that's something straight people do, like, let's do that."
Yeah, and I would say it's probably more so in the past than now. I think now we're kind of growing a little bit away from that, and
Yeah.
we as a society have kind of progressed a bit. But you played baseball, and was this for a small school? You said a small college.
Yeah, yeah, my freshman year, I played, at a very, very, very tiny college up here. I was there closing I was a closer, like a reliever, closing pitcher for them and a utility infielder.
Oh, very
Uh,
nice. Cool.
yeah, I was, not a big guy, but I always had a kind of a lively arm. And I played baseball my whole life growing up, so, um, wish I played football, never had the injury health to make it into football, so I was always kinda nursing some sorta nagging injury.
Yeah.
So, baseball is a little bit easier on the body.
Did the baseball background kind of add to your competitiveness when you started playing fantasy football?
I am much more competitive in, fantasy football than I was in baseball. I I was always competitive when I was a pitcher, but it was very like, it's a very different mentality. You have to, kinda be able to put everything else out of your mind when you're on the mound. At least I did. I had to be, like, so net neutral, like, it didn't matter. Like, a meteor could have crashed into the outfield behind me, and I wouldn't have blinked, because I just had to stay locked in. fantasy football, I am in general manager mode year round because I do dynasty and redraft. And like
Oh, very cool.
you could call me at 3 a.m. and be like, I have a trade idea, and I would get out of bed and be like, let's talk. And my friends know this, and they utilize that against me quite a bit because like they're like they'll get bored as you do throughout the season. You just want to make a trade, call Steve. Like he'll answer the phone.
And I may end up. I have a trade involving Michael Penix, so I'm trying to get your ear on that one. Hey, and also, you know, so I'm guessing at this point now you're playing fantasy football. You mentioned you do both dynasty and redraft.
Mhm.
How many leagues are you currently playing in?
I've cut down significantly. I think I was in like 20 something leagues last year. Like it was way too many. Like at one year I was in 30 something leagues. Like and it's kind of nice, right? Being on Twitter and having the platform that I've built, people do ask me fairly frequently to be in like some charity league or like this league for this league for that. And I'm always happy to like kind of oblige, but I've kind of made a rule now that it has to be best ball at this point for me to jump in because I have just too many leagues to manage. Um, and my home league is still it's a redraft league. That is the league I care about the most that I play in. So I need to win that, or I'm gonna start getting grumpy.
Yeah, I found that, you know, I now play mostly in dynasty league. So when, you know, we talk about the draft, I'm always thinking incoming rookie drafts as opposed to, you know, startup drafts where you and you know, but there are a couple of redrafts, and of course the Scott Fishbowl is a, you know, a massive redraft league.
Yeah,
Um, you and I think we talked a little bit before the show, and you mentioned, you know, the fantasy football content side that you are involved in. So why don't you tell us about what you're involved with, who you're writing and doing other types of content work with currently?
yeah. I'm currently over at In Between Media. You can find them. They're IBT_media on Twitter. I do a lot of different stuff. I do some fantasy football for them. I'm on a podcast for them later tonight. We go live at like 9:30, I think. But I do that for them every week. I write articles for them, but I also host like an entertainment betting show. We talk about movies and music and all that kind of stuff. I also I'll let you in on the secret. I'm also their social media guy. So a lot of the graphics you see IBT put out, that's me. Um, so sometimes I play with myself and I'll make fun of my own takes like through IBT, which is always fun for me. Because who doesn't like to laugh at themselves, right? But working over there, I have like the best team of people around me. I'm so like happy to be there. Uh, Seth, who runs it, is amazing. My buddy Eric, who started the Pros with Joe's fantasy tournament,
Yeah, I
he's
talked to
over
Eric
there.
earlier this year. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's such a good guy. People like, Trash Sandwiches, Jake Perry, um, Nicolette, all like everyone at there. I'd have to run through the whole list if I wanted to make sure everyone got the shout out, but I'll just shout out the whole team. They're amazing and they make me look good. So I thank them every day for that. Cause you can't do it alone in this, not at the level that we're trying to over there. So,
And so you mentioned that you do a couple of different types of things, some in football and some outside football. What's
yeah,
your favorite and why?
I I love movies. I am a movie guy. I watch movies all the time. I'm always consuming TV, movies, music, reading. I'm always consuming some form of media. So I would say that's probably my favorite to talk about. Just because there's so many different ways you can go with it, right? Like fantasy football is amazing in a lot of different ways, but it is a little like there's not as much variety as like a movie, right? You have a rom-com versus horror versus action. There's so many different ways you can go with it, and I just absolutely love any chance I get to talk about movies, and I will talk your ear off about them.
Uh, and you know, so I think you also mentioned betting. Can you kind of clue me in on what the betting aspect of the movie show, at least, since that one sounds
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
yeah, it was kind of this idea that formed, and it it took off, and we now do it. So we run a couple segments, and we'll look at through both Kalshi, which is a betting site, and then Bet US, which is another betting site. They'll have futures, and so we'll bet on like everything from Rotten Tomatoes scores, like projections
Oh,
coming
neat.
up,
Oh, cool.
to like box office futures, like, oh, will it make over or under this amount of money? Will these things be like, will they announce the new blah 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 this year, yes or no? And we'll bet on a variety of different things, and usually it's because me and my two co-hosts, we're all heavy consumers of movies and media. We all like kind of fanatics about it, so we have
Mhm.
our finger on the pulse of a lot of that stuff, and we're right a lot of the time. Like, and I'll lay my own money down on some of these bets that we call out, and we're right a lot, so it's like really fun uh to do that. And then, hear from people that they're like, hey, I hit on this bet that you laid out. And I'm like, that's amazing. Like, we want you to hit, right? We're not just saying it to say it. We want to help people in the betting markets as much as we can.
Sure. And what would be, what would be like one or two, big bets or bets that you hit on, um, in the movie or even in the fantasy football world for that matter?
Yeah. So just this past week, we laid down a bet that Warfare, the new A24 movie, would get an over 80% Rotten Tomato score. It would score over
Okay.
80%. And that was going off at plus money. So it paid you more than you paid in. And that hit, and we were right about that. And we've been right about a lot of Rotten Tomato scores like that. Both overs, unders, like we called Wicked scoring over an 80 when that was coming up. Like, I was bullish on Wicked. I said that's going to be an amazing thing. But we'll bet on like the Oscars. We'll bet on a whole bunch of stuff. So it's hard to like narrow it down to just like one or two, but there's so many options. I would have to look back on some of our stuff because I don't remember off the top of my head. But
No
even
worries.
tonight, we're going to lay down bets on the fantasy football show.
I wish I had listened to the show, or you may have even skipped it because it was such a bad movie. I was disappointed. Holland. I watched that last night, and Nicole Kidman was in it, and I'm thinking, oh, this is
Mhm.
going to be pretty good. It looked pretty interesting, and I like kind of like mystery kind of
Right.
thriller type stories, but gee, it wasn't. And if I'd looked at the Rotten Tomato scores, I think it was like 25 or 30. It should have clued me in that this was going to be a disappointment, and it sure was. So,
Yeah,
but
sometimes that happens. Like, that's
yeah.
how it was. I saw A Working Man. It was a Jason Statham movie, and I love Jason Statham movies. I know
Mhm.
they're trash. Like, I get it. Like, it's a beat up a bunch of anonymous henchmen kind of movie.
Oh yeah.
Great. And this one was so bad, like, it made me dislike a Jason Statham movie, and I was just like, "That's unbelievable that you managed to pull that off." Because you could get him up there, and he could read the phone book, and I'd usually walk out of there pretty happy. And this was just bad. So every now and then one catches me that I'm like, "I thought that would be better."
Well, I do want us to be able to also talk more about the Rainbow Bowl. But before we do that, I'll have one more movie question.
Sure.
Um, what is your favorite football or sports related movie?
That's a tough one. I think I'm probably gonna play it safe here and say Remember the Titans,
That's a
as
great
one of my
one.
favorite football movies. If I have to watch a sports movie, that's probably if I you know what, honestly, I guess if it counts, if you'll allow me to say either Talladega Nights or Blades of Glory, like, they're Will Ferrell movies, they're comedies, those would
Hilarious. Yeah.
probably win. They'd probably win for me. Like, if I have to watch a sports movie, I'd rather it be fun and funny. I really do enjoy those 2 movies. So I would say Blades of Glory or Talladega Nights.
Yeah, I usually will go with old standbys. I like Field of Dreams and Hoosiers. Um, from a football point of view, yeah, I think you nailed mine. Since I also like We Are Marshall.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
It's a tearjerker, and again, a great story.
Yeah.
I but I'm looking forward to, because it's showing up on my Netflix now, as Draft Day. But it's a horrible movie.
It
It's
it's
not realistic at all,
yeah,
but
it's rough. It's rough.
But
It's
from
rough.
even a fantasy football point of view, those trades would have never happened. But
Yeah.
it's still fun to see it kind of work its way all the way through and
Yeah.
um, pull out the little posty note saying, no matter what. So
It was crazy, like, because I remember in that movie, they trade, like, a bazillion picks to go up, and then they start scouting the guy that they traded up to go get. I'm like, no one would do that, but you know what? Sometimes you just want a football movie, and that's what you get, right? So, sometimes you get what you get, and you don't get upset, as my 6th grade teacher used to say.
well, and again, I think that just from the short time talking with you, I can tell you're not someone who gets too upset too easily. And if you do, it looks you probably just toss it over the shoulder and move on. So,
More or less, yeah.
well, again, we're here really to find out more and to shine the spotlight on the Rainbow Bowl. So, first of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Rainbow Bowl, and then I'll ask you some more specific questions.
Yeah, so it's a charity best ball tournament. I started it last year. This is our 2nd season, to raise money for the Trevor Project. Because I was one of those LGBTQ kids who had no one to turn to. I didn't want people knowing. I felt very trapped in my own world. So I always think to myself, like, the best thing I can do as a person is to leave this world a little bit better than I came into it, and
Awesome.
stand up for my own community. So that's kind of what I try to do. Queer people across the world right now, I feel like we need more voices in spaces that maybe we haven't been welcome in the past. And show that, like, things like fantasy football aren't just for one group of people or one orientation, right? It's for everyone. It's a game. It's meant to be fun, and it's meant to be a community. So that's kind of how Rainbow Bowl started, and then it kind of took on a much bigger life than I expected uh after that.
Well, and definitely from I saw your tweets about the bowl and the success you had in your first year, and I'm sure there's a goal of to try to raise the bar even higher. What led you to running the Rainbow Bowl? I mean, running a fantasy football league as a commissioner is hard, and then adding the layers of complexity of a charity league on top of that. What inspired you to do that, or how did you come about doing it?
Yeah, it was really just it was a group that I just didn't see a way. I didn't see anything that told queer people that they were welcome. Um, so when I started it, I really was like, if I get 12 people to sign up for this, I'll be really happy. Like, I was really concerned I wasn't going to be able to fill out a single league, and we wound up having 144 players in
Awesome.
our first season, which was really cool. It is tough to run it by yourself. I'll tell you that much. Like, input, like figuring out all the scores, running everything through, making sure everyone's scores are up to date, answering questions as they come up, figuring out your playoff format. A lot of that is tricky, but if it means raising awareness, raising money for, like, Trevor Project, then it's a labor of love, I guess. So again, it's always about the community, like the LGBTQ plus community, and me feeling like I am at least doing something to better the world for queer people in general.
And you mentioned the number of people. What platform are you using? Are you using Sleeper or?
Yeah, right now we're exclusively on Sleeper. Maybe one day, hopefully, we'll get as big as, like, Scott Fish, and I'll have to go to, like, a bunch of different uh sites. But for right now, I'm able to keep it on Sleeper. And I just kind of keep adding divisions as I need to add divisions, and we keep growing and growing and growing. And um, Sleeper is easy. I like Sleeper. It's a pretty convenient little site. I am not sponsored by them, but I would absolutely welcome it, Sleeper. So if you ever
Yeah,
see this,
as you can guess from my gray hair, I've played for a few years, and I've Yahoo and of course MFL and ESPN and CBS, and I'll tell you that Sleeper, I think, is not only very user friendly, which helps newer players be less having to struggle with the platform
Right.
and focus more on the game itself. So I think that's a good thing. The other thing that they're really good at is the app.
The app is amazing.
MFL's app is like a nightmare, and I'll continue
Yeah,
to keep
that's a rough
pounding
one.
on it for it. But
Oh, that is a rough app. Yeah, it is bad. Like, I don't even wanna, like, mince words about it. It's so bad. It drives me crazy.
and I know it's a difficult question to answer sometimes, but how much money did you raise in your first year?
Our first year, we raised about $3,500,
Super.
which
Wow, nice.
yeah, which, like, is it gonna change the world? No, but is it a start? Absolutely, and $3,500 toward anything, like, whether that keeps one person on the phones for an extra couple shifts, like, that's an extra person on the phones, you know what I mean? And so, I can't speak highly enough about the Trevor Project and what they do and what they work for. So, any chance I get to support a charity like that or like a community, it's always worth it. So I'm really happy.
And you mentioned Trevor Project. Can you tell us a little bit more about the work that they do, and I guess their response to the league, and so the money probably is important, but also just the fact that you're doing something to support them.
Yeah, they are like a crisis line for LGBTQ plus kids that are in crisis, right? Like they don't know who to turn to, whether it's, whether they're suicidal or just need someone to really talk to because they're so overwhelmed and so lost. Uh, they're there. They have 24-hour hotlines that they can call and resources that can help. And so they've been amazing for so long. And you know, while not an official partner, it felt like the charity that I wanted to work with the most. Um, and yeah, I mean, we got to protect. Realistically, we just got to keep protecting our young people, because that is the future of our world, and we're letting them down in so many different ways. I feel like, and they need to know that they're not alone. So protecting queer kids is always going to be something that I stand up for and kind of speak out against, and queer people in general. Like, I don't care if you're 105 years old or 5 years old. Like, I'll scream and fight for you too. So that's kind of where I come from on that.
And I'll be honest, it's more inspiring when it's something that you have a personal connection with. You can one feel a lot better about the work you're doing, and the amount of time and energy you're putting into it.
Yeah.
And then two, you can show more pride in the work you're doing, and the fact that you've had this successful first year. This second year, are you I don't know, are you have you set yourself a bar for that you're going to try to get to, and is it a high bar?
It is a higher bar. I definitely did. So I'm always trying to grow and be better and improve. So last year we had 144 players. This year I hope to have 240 players. Is at least the number I'd like to get to.
Awesome.
Um, we have a fundraising goal. Like, again, it's like 3 grand is like the goal, but anything over that would be amazing. Any donation is amazing, whether it's $1, $5, $10, it doesn't really matter. You donate what you can. It's not mandatory to get into the league. You can donate if you want, but really it's about spreading awareness, creating community, creating allyship, and bridging a huge, massive gap that has always kind of been there in the world of football in general. And so I think that's really my goal, is to bring more and more people into it so that we can stand up and say, like, this is what we're about. This is the fantasy community at large.
Awesome. And I know that you tweet about it. And we will put information in the YouTube notes on how to get more information, and we'll come back to that later as well. Um, what sort of rules, or is this, what sort of league setup? I think you mentioned best ball, right?
Yeah, so it's best ball, which is always easier. And then this year I'm running, it's one QB 8 flexes, and then 1 super flex
Oh,
spot.
nice.
So I am giving you just free reign to design your team how you want. It's also a full PPR with a half point tight end premium and then big play bonuses on top of that. So I really wanted to make this so every team is unique. Every team kind of reflects their owner in a way, right? Like who you view as the best players. And yeah, I think it's going to be really cool to see how these teams come together with all these flex spots. Like, is our team's going to overload on tight end? Are they going to stick with the running back position exclusively? You never know, and that's really exciting.
And the flex positions, they are either running back, wide receiver, or tight end. You're not having people run in with kickers or kick returners or.
No, no, no kickers, no kick returners. Yeah, running back, wide receiver, tight end at the 8 flex spots, and then you get the 1 super flex that you can stick a second quarterback in.
Which makes, again, in a 12-person league, it makes it a lot more interesting and competitive than,
Oh yeah.
one quarterback leagues. And again, as a best ball, you're probably having a pretty deep draft. Or do you also allow for, pickups during the course of the season, like free agencies and.
Yeah, that's something that I did last year and I'm doing again this year. That's pretty unique, I think, to the best ball format is I actually don't have super deep benches and there are add and drops throughout the year. I
Oh,
think it's like
nice.
8. I think it's like 8 guys deep. But
Mhm.
like yeah, I allow pickups and drops all throughout the year and it's so cool cuz it's like a totally different thing. We do free agent bidding
So you have a
for
fab
that
that
stuff.
gets with the start of
Yeah,
the season? Okay.
yeah, and so, people are like, "Wait, are we supposed to have this?" I'm like, "Yep, absolutely." It adds just another layer that, you know, if you wanna go deeper into the league, you can and have a little bit more immersive experience, or the benches are deep enough that you realistically should be able to survive the year without having to do a thing to your team. So it's really meant to be, um, as flexible as possible for the fantasy community.
I love the flexibility because I'm someone who doesn't think you win or lose a league by the draft. And usually, especially if you go into the early part of the season, identifying those players that were undrafted, um, or if an injury happens early on, and all of a sudden, a running back is now the lead running back for a team, and
Right.
you want to be able to pounce on that free agent signing. I'm one who believes that fab is meant to be spent and early on. So if
Yeah,
Jordan Mason comes across early on, I'm pounding
absolutely.
that one with a $70 bid,
Yeah,
So,
you got it. You got it, right? Like, I mean, Puka Nakua was a waiver wire darling, what, 2 years ago? So, I mean, you can absolutely win a league on the waiver wire. I will never argue against that.
love it. I love it. And makes it for a pretty exciting league then. I'm guessing it's pretty competitive with a lot of the folks from I don't know, the fantasy content world that are
Oh, yeah.
participating too.
Oh, yeah. It's really cool. It's really competitive. Like, I think the cutoff was missed. I am not even exaggerating. I think by 1 point last
Wow.
season. Like, the difference between making it in and not making it in was 1 point.
And while I'm sure people are saying, hey, it's a charity league, and so, just participating is a win. But I'm sure just that competitive thing kind of nudged at
Yeah.
people think, I wanted to be in it. So,
People wanna win. They wanna win, and it was really cool to see, a friend of mine actually get the win. Someone actually who works with me at IBT. It was very strange that they did. But her team caught fire at the end of the year, and yeah, she wound up pulling it out, and I was really proud of her. And then she got a shirt and all this stuff, like, with a champion and a trophy and all that stuff.
oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well, it sounds like a super fun league. Um, how much of your time, and think we kind of touched a little bit on this, but how much of your time is spent on running this league? And do you have any people currently helping you?
So there's a decent amount of time that goes into it because I'm doing more video content for it now. Like every time I announce a division, I do like this little custom video. I've like created this. Uh, there's a theme this year, which is horror. I'm a horror movie junkie,
Oh, nice.
so I was like, I want to do horror icons. So every division is named after some horror movie character, and so I've started like these like creepy little videos that start out with like Kermit the Frog singing Rainbow Connection, and it distorts itself into some horror video announcing the new division. And so I make those, and then I have to figure out like who, I send out the emails and do all that stuff. I do it all on my own right now. I've had my boyfriend and my best friend have both offered to help me with the scoring inputs this season, so I'm very grateful to them for that. And so yeah, but right now, like, I am the video editor, I am the sound editor, I am the league managers, I am the promotional guy. I do it all right now. I'm wearing every hat.
And you're trying to grow it by a pretty good chunk. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
almost double.
impressive. And hopefully folks will be watching this and also seeing the stuff that you're putting out over Twitter and other social media. Um, and, they'll help grow this thing to the point where you're really going to be pulling hairs out
Yeah.
and won't that be the great outcome
Oh,
for a
absolutely.
year or two? So that's pretty psyched. And I do think that we do have the information below, and we have your Twitter in with your name. But um, how can people? How do people get involved with your league? How do they? Do you have a signups? Do you? How do people get involved?
Yeah, so we have a sign up link. I've posted it a million times on my Twitter at this point. I think you have it as well. If you don't, I'll connect you with it. But I saw you signed up, so you have it somewhere. Uh, like I saw
Yeah,
it and like
I've
I was like, oh,
signed
I
up at
gotcha.
least.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I've had people reach out and they're like, hey, I haven't got my invite yet. I'm like, I literally send invites out as I create the divisions. So I only send like 12 at a time because I'm going to do it up until like the draft day. I'll add as many. I would literally make this league 1,200 people if I could fit 1,200 people in it. So like I can't say everyone will get in because, at some point I will have to be like, hey, I can't like manage that many. But like if you sign up, odds are, pretty good that you'll see something going on for it, but you can always get involved in the sign up link, and then, sharing it out is always the best way. Word of mouth is kind of our best friend at the moment. So,
Well, and again, I was just teasing you because I know how much work you're doing right now. Uh, in addition to the work you're doing for the Rainbow Bowl, you also are juggling all other things too, and that's one of the things I always like to try to highlight is that we all have busy lives. All of us have busy lives, and the fact that there's this great group of people who are running or starting up and running charity leagues and charity events. I mean, that just again makes my heart feel much better about fantasy football, and not hearing all the sort of the squabbling that sometimes you see on Twitter with people who for some reason have forgotten that this is something that's supposed to be fun. And
yeah.
and the fact that you're doing so much to give back, to the community, the both local and I'm guessing that you have people coming from all over the United States, or would that also include people from outside the United States participating?
Yeah, we've gone international at this point. We have a couple people I think signed up from Europe. I think we have a few Londoners. I know one of the guys is I think a Londoner. So we've officially gone international. I know we had a couple from Canada last season, so that's always cool. Um, but it is busy for a lot of us. Like this, none of what I listed I get paid to do. You know what I mean? Like none of these are my job. I'm a nurse during the day. So that's what I do, like to pay the bills, and then I do all this other stuff around it. But it's always about helping people with me. Like that's kind of, I guess that's what I like to do. I don't know where that came from, but my I guess just been in my blood. My family's like that, so I got to give a lot of credit to the people around me. You are kind
Yeah.
of a product of who you're around, and I've been around just the most amazing people my whole life, both my friends and family. So I got to give them all the credit.
Awesome. I also think that, again, from just our short conversation, you seem like a pretty good person too. So,
Thanks.
and I think good people do follow, good parents, and good parents tend to also, have their kids that are pretty good people too. I've been blessed
Try to
twice,
be.
so I'm, thankful for that. And I don't think it's anything special I've done. And I learned from them way more than I think that they learned from me. So hopefully they'll keep going. Do you want to go ahead and remind people how they can get in touch with you, both through your normal Twitter and other things, but if you want to remind folks how to best get a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. So this Twitter handle right down here, best way you're gonna get in touch with me is right there. I usually try to respond to DMs and anything like that as much as I can. I'm happy to talk fantasy with you. I'm happy to talk movies with you. If you tweet at me, I'll usually respond. Rainbow Bowl, I'm posting about it all the time. So sign up links are always going up. If you want to find content that maybe you're like, oh, I'm not really looking for anything football related, but I want to talk about movies. I'm over at In Between Media talking about movies constantly. So, and if you want to see more of my face tonight, I'll be on a podcast at 9:30, streaming live on In Between Media's YouTube channel. So
And is that the movie show or is that a
this is the
football
fantasy
related show?
football show. This is the fantasy football show.
Do you want to remind folks? So tonight, and that's a weekly show that you do?
Yes, this one's a weekly show. The movie show is usually on Thursdays every other week. Our schedule's a little hard to pin down because we're such a new show right now and we're trying to figure that out. But we are doing a special next Tuesday episode of our entertainment show because it's WrestleMania weekend. And for the WWE fans out there, we are doing a WrestleMania show. So we cover everything pop culture. And we are all in on it. So we rounded up a couple people that are big wrestling fans, and we are going to talk some WrestleMania, which is fun for me because it's something different.
And I saw this in the chat. What time?
The weekly show is at 9:30. The entertainment show, we tweet it. We'll always tweet it out, but it's usually at 7 o'clock on Thursdays, every other Thursday. This one on Tuesday next week will be at 7 o'clock as well. But you will always see, if you follow In Between Media, we will tweet it out. Usually beginning of the day, we'll be like, hey, here's the link, here's the time, here's the blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, we always have something going on. If you're a NASCAR fan, if you're an entertainment fan, if you're a golf fan, fantasy football, like that site, they're busy. I'll tell you what, those dudes don't stop.
Yeah, and they're great people too. At least from what little I've seen through Twitter and other
Yeah, they're
social
great.
media, they seem like a great team. So, and obviously, and a chance to talk with you, you seem like a pretty good person too. So we'll.
Oh yeah.
I,
And I don't want to discount how great you've been either. Like having people on talking charity leagues, like that's so great. Like again, I think I said this at the top of the show, but it's so cool that you highlight um these kinds of leagues because I don't know if anyone else is doing that, to be honest with you. So when you reached out and you let me know that this was an opportunity, I was so grateful. To think that I mean Eric with the Pros with Joe's fantasy to have been on the same show that he's on. I mean, Pros with Joe's is so big and so cool. So I'm just very grateful for this opportunity.
Oh, well, actually, it's all my appreciation is people like you who are doing the heavy lifting and giving back in such a way that I find it inspiring, and I'm looking forward to being in the league and also looking forward to watching it grow, and hopefully people in the audience will also be jumping in and helping the show and
Yeah,
helping
please do.
the league grow. So first of all, I want to thank you for being on the show and telling us all about the Rainbow Bowl. It sounds like just a kick-ass fun league. And more importantly, it's supporting or benefiting such an important cause. And so again, we'll have information about the Trevor Project also in the YouTube notes. So people who want to learn more about that or also learn and become involved in the Rainbow Bowl, there's information, including a sign-up link there as well. Also, for anyone out in the audience who is running a charity league or a charity event and would like to be a guest on a future Give Back show, love to be able to bring greater awareness to the work you're doing. And so please reach out to me. And again, it's that Twitter X account down below there. And love to be able to help schedule that for an upcoming show. Next Tuesday, we're going to be having the guys from the Bengals and Brews Charity League talk about their league. So hopefully you'll come back at same time, 7 p.m. on Tuesday. And after that, we've got some great shows on the Sports Affiliation Network of shows. We've got our Thursday check down on Thursday nights, runs the same time as yours, Steve. So we'll have to share audiences.
We'll have to share the audience.
But we also have a great show on Sundays that talks about basketball called the Hoops Show, and that's with JR. He does a great job, so please look for him in the mornings. We also do some draft shows on Monday, and I think they do most a different show on Fridays, so keep an eye out for that. And then on Wednesday, we also have Carla doing her interview show called The Game Changers, and she's such a great interviewer and has lots of great guests. So please keep an eye open for that as well. So hopefully you'll come back next Tuesday. And in between, please remember to be good, do good, and always give back. And thanks everyone for watching, and thanks especially to you, Steve, for being a guest.
Thank you.
And we'll go ahead and have JC take us out. Hey, that one